Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Every once in a while, a parent will mention to me that their estranged adult child has suggested that they, the parent, get therapy. And quite often, the child did not make that suggestion in a very nice way. It wasn't like, "Can I talk to you about something?" Often it's more like, "You need therapy. Just get some help for heaven's sakes." It's not always gentle or sympathetic, so it feels very much like judgment to the parent. Sometimes getting therapy is put out there actually as a condition of reconciliation. Your child is willing to get back together, but only on the condition that you get therapy first. Very often there's no other guidance about what to work on. Just get therapy. They don't say for what or why or for how long. They just figure yourself out is the message. It's very general. Now, apart from feeling like an insult, this can be very confusing. What are you supposed to say when you find a therapist? "I'm here because my child suggested I get therapy"? Well, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. A skilled therapist would probably be able to help you begin to figure out what some of the issues are by asking perceptive questions. And based on your recollections of interactions with your child, you could probably uncover some fruitful areas to explore. But not knowing why you're there to begin with puts you in the category of what's called a mandated client. Someone who's in therapy at someone else's request with no personal agenda to work on. And outcomes are poor with mandated clients, so you really don't want to be one of those. Instead, if your child asks you to get therapy, regardless of whether it's a condition of reconciliation, I want to talk to you about 5 things you might want to think about. First, you don't need someone like me who specializes in estrangement if your child wants you to get therapy. Although a specialist can help you figure out an approach to unwanted estrangement, that's different from working on the things over time that your child is asking you to work on. Assuming the estrangement is based on a problem that your child perceives between you and her, therapy can help you better understand what you're bringing to the table that might be unconscious and work through any trauma, unmet emotional needs, or other psychological stuff that might be controlling your behavior and unconsciously damaging the relationship. So number 1 is, if you decide to honor your child's request, call a relationally oriented therapist, not an estrangement specialist, for individual therapy. And by the way, although it may hurt to be told by anyone you need therapy, if you've never had therapy before or haven't had good therapy that really helped you, it's almost always a good idea to look into it for your own benefit, assuming you can afford the time and money. Number 2, once you're in therapy, you'll want to make sure that you focus on yourself and not just as your child's parent. Chances are the problem is manifesting as something relational, but it starts in how we relate to ourselves. If your child claims you've been neglectful, how often do you ignore your own needs or fail to listen to your own heart? You can make greater strides in therapy by concentrating on your own needs than you can in concentrating on the needs of your child. Yes, there will come a time when you'll need to be very aware of your child's needs in order to reconnect, but that will be impossible if you're ignoring your own needs or if you're unaware of them. You can't give from an empty bucket. So focus on yourself in therapy. What have you experienced in life that affects how you behave in important relationships, or what you need from them? An example would be your attachment style. Someone who emerged from childhood with an insecure attachment style will suffer in relationships with others. the more important the person is to you, the more insecure you'll feel in relationships. And insecurity affects how you relate to the people in your life. Number 3, remember that needing help with relational stuff is nothing to be ashamed of. All of us, myself included, have peculiarities, let's say, when it comes to how we relate to other people. And if you didn't receive all the relational tools that you needed to make sure your relationships run fairly smoothly, it's not your fault. We do the best we can with the tools in our toolkits. Clever people add to their tools whenever they can. They don't beat themselves up for not having a tool to begin with. They just go ahead and learn it as best they can for the future. The tools in your personal relationship toolkit are not an indication of your worth or even your competence. They only indicate what you've been exposed to in the past. So if you're not great at expressing your feelings effectively, for example, it's because no one taught you how to do that. Therapy is a great place to expose yourself to new or more advanced skills and to try them out in a safe environment before putting them into practice in your relationships. So don't let yourself be ashamed of wanting, needing, or even being urged to get therapy. Instead, pat yourself on the back for being willing to keep growing. Number 4, remember that therapy takes time. It's not like getting a haircut where you walk out after one appointment and you're totally transformed. Therapy is an investment of time in your personal growth. All growth requires time. Even dandelions take time to grow. Although if you're a gardener, they might seem to pop up overnight. So don't be in a hurry to contact your child saying, "I had 3 therapy sessions. Can we talk now?" Remember the second point I made. For best results, pull your focus inward and just concentrate on growing and becoming your best self no matter what. You deserve to live your life as fully as you can. And for many of us, including me, therapy plays a part in becoming our best selves. When people say thank you for your compassion, Tina, they're really thanking my therapist for teaching me self-compassion that I could pay forward to other people. My therapist taught me compassion more profoundly than any textbook or video or blog post or podcast ever could. That's an aside, but the point was therapy takes time. It's not an overnight fix. But the internal changes you experience through therapy tend to be permanent. Number 5, remember that although your child's insistence that you get therapy may sound rude and insulting, it's also, in a way, a positive sign. There is some condition under which he would be willing to re-engage with you. Regardless of what that condition is, it's better for him to be willing under certain conditions than under absolutely no conditions. If your child had totally given up on you, he wouldn't waste his breath giving you clues as to how to reconnect. In suggesting therapy, your child is urging you to reconnect with yourself first. And in most cases that I've been privy to, that is truly insightful advice. It's almost impossible to genuinely bond with someone when you're not whole on the inside. And that state of not being whole inside is something that children seem to be highly attuned to in their parents, especially by the time they grow into adults. So those 5 things for you to consider if your child has asked you to get therapy were, number 1, don't insist on finding someone experienced in family estrangement. It's not necessary for those purposes. 2, once you're in therapy, focus on understanding yourself, not just your child. 3, let go of any shame around seeking therapy. It's not for the weak. That's a common misconception. Only those strong enough to face their own emotions go to therapy. 4, remember that therapy is not usually an overnight fix. Don't try to rush it. And finally, 5, try to look at your child's request as a gift. She's telling you what she thinks is needed to repair and improve the relationship. If you do decide to get therapy, do it for yourself and not for your child. I'll link to some directories in the show notes where you can look for a therapist online by zip or postal code. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.